Hey guys, this is the interview with Jaguar and Real Life Productions. It's quite an interview. This woman has led a very interesting life. She talks about her family. She talks about growing up, the things that happened between she and her dad, her mom. She talks about dating a guy 10 years older at the age of 13. Jaguar has led a very interesting life. Let's take a listen as she tells her story, because it's quite a story. But before we do, let's hit the like and the subscribe button. Now let's get into the story.
I'm Jaguar Wright Johnson, but I was born Jacqueline Suzette Wright at John F. Kennedy Hospital in Stratford. That's how you pronounce it, Stratford, New Jersey. I'm a complicated person. And from 1977 to now, it's been a hell of a ride.
Your parents, give me some back from what you know as far as the back history on your father, also the back history on your mother. You can start with your mother if you choose.
No, we'll start with Dad. Let's do the good news first. My father, God bless the dead, God rest his soul, Norman Lindsay Wright Sr. was the middle child of 9, born in Pitts, Georgia, to David Wright Sr. and Georgia Ann Harden Wright, who were born slaves. My grandfather was born in 1900. I think my grandmother was born in 1902, and they never liked each other. They had more than 9 kids, but it was 9 that survived the South. And my granddaddy was a song and dance man. He was very popular on the Chitlin circuit, but he was married to a woman that he really didn't want to be with. And he was having a bunch of kids. I know my grandfather loved his family, but the truth is he loved his career more. My Aunt Penny got sick with pneumonia. See, he used to open up for the Nicholas brothers, Fayette, and I'm trying to remember the Nicholas brothers' first names. The one that was married to Dorothy Dandridge and Fayette. And my granddaddy used to open up for them on the Chitlin circuit, and he was so good that they guaranteed him a spot at the Cotton Club. And Aunt Penny got sick with pneumonia, and it was all hands on deck back then. A lot of people died from pneumonia back in the 40s down south. You know, he's sharecropper, but that's what he did to support the family, kind of. But yeah, Aunt Penny got sick, and he was late to Memphis. He was supposed to have been meeting the Nicholas brothers in Memphis. And he got there, and they had already left, and he missed his spot at the Cotton Club. And he never let nobody forget it. That incident happened in 1940 something. I was born in 1977, and I heard about it all the way up until he died in 1986. My granddaddy was 86 when he passed away, so it was 1986. He died that fall. My Uncle Jello, he died earlier that year, broke his heart. My Uncle Jello was his favorite. My dad was the hardest working and the most dedicated, but my Uncle Jello was his favorite. He was junior, you know. He always wanted to make it.
Was there, from your grandfather to his kids, 9 other children, to your dad, was there any other musical outside of your grandfather?
Everyone in my family is talented. If my father hadn't had such a great disdain for the music industry because of what it did to his family because of the way my grandfather. I mean, you got to understand, my grandfather, he would get upset and be like, I can't stand you. I supposed to have went to the Cotton Club and married Lena Horne and left all y'all niggas in the South. When I say him and my grandmother didn't like each other, they didn't like each other. I remember one day I was over, this is when we was living on the family, the family house is on Spencer Street. Aunt Susie house, my Aunt Susie Bright, who was an executive at Campbell Soup all the way up until she retired, had the corner house, and Granddaddy sat out on the porch, and Grandma, up until she passed away, I was a little girl. I must have been like 3 years old, and I was playing in the living room, and I never asked myself why my grandmother was tied to the chair in the living room. I still don't know why I didn't think anything strange of it. It was just Grandma was in the chair and she was tied up, and I just accepted it. And then my cousin Charmaine, who's my Aunt Verlie's daughter, God rest her soul, God bless the dead. My cousin Charmaine, she had been living in Philadelphia. She had left Atlantic City and moved to West Philly with her husband, Rodney Gary. And so Charmaine came over and she saw Grandma tied up in the chair. And she said, Grandma, why are you in the chair? And she said, yo, aunts are terrible people. They tied me in this chair. I've been stuck here in this chair. And Grandma just put on this. She was in such distress. And I still didn't have no question about it. I just was playing in the living room on the floor by myself. And so my cousin Charmaine looked at my grandmother and said, Grandmother, do you want me to let you go? And she said, oh, please, grandbaby, just let me go. So my cousin Charmaine untied my grandmama, and when she did, that's when we realized why she was tied in the chair. Because she pushed my cousin to the side, and then she pulled the knife out from underneath the seat cushion, and she ran up the stairs to go kill my granddaddy, and she was trying to kick in the door. And he was laughing at her. He had the deadbolt. Bitch, I ain't letting you. I'm going to kill you, nigga. Like my granddad would do weird shit. Like we'd be having grace and during grace. He'd be like, Lord, can you please take this ugly bitch home? Like at the dinner table. So I mean, love has always been complicated in my family. But they stayed married till death do them part. My family don't really believe in divorce.
So what was probably something that you may have seen your grandfather do to your grandmother, just on your father's side?
Or just, cuss out all the time, and they would cuss each other out. My grandma go to the bathroom, and then granddaddy got to go to the bathroom because, they was up in age. And, granddaddy come, bitch, there's some crowd up your ass and die. Jesus, die with it, Or you hear them hacking and call, bitch, shut the fuck up. They had an antagonistic relationship. Every now and then they try to kill each other, and.
And as far as your father, what history?
My grandma was a tall woman, see. My grandma, she was like the shortest of her siblings. She was 6'2.5". My granddaddy was 5'9". So I think he had kind of like a Napoleon complex and just wasn't going to let my grandma think because she was taller than him and bigger than him. I think, that was kind of it. Grandma wasn't no joke. But he would never go too far. Because my grandmother's brothers were really big. And like my Uncle Tiny, he was 8 feet tall. So, what the hell was my granddaddy going to do? 5'9", with Georgia Ann and Tiny 8 feet tall and come and pluck them, So, I mean, it was a mutual love, well, hate. They loved the family. They just couldn't stand each other. And, yeah.
Where were they from, your grandfather?
Pitch, Georgia. But you can't find it. It's not on the map anymore. The state of Georgia has disavowed all knowledge of the town. It was a lynch town, see. white man came through, got offended that a black man could read better than him, and then he came back with his friends drunk and they killed everybody. And my family escaped, made it to North Florida, and nobody talk about it. And we know what happened, and then Georgia swept it under the rug, and it's still hidden under underpasses and stuff. They have it barricaded off. Unless you knew where it was, you drive right by it, and they ain't pay no reparations for anybody from Pitts, Georgia either. They just swept it under the rug. So after that, my family went down to White Spring, Florida, and the baby of the 9 siblings, because there's only 2 left now. Everybody else gone. And my Aunt Teen, and then there's my Aunt Iola in Chicago. But my Aunt Teen is still in the family town. I took my husband down there to go see her. I said, this is the closest you're going to get to meeting my father, because she looked just like my dad. And that was my dad's favorite, his baby sister. Oh, my God. My dad would rip down the Empire State Building for Teen. But ain't she great? She loved him. Oh, my God. The picture that they took at the IHOP when we went during the pandemic, look at my baby.
Obviously, this was before Goomba and Jaguar separated.
We talked to her, what was about a month ago, because we got to go down to Florida to go see her. And she's, where my man? She loved her some Gerald. But, yeah, so the family settled in Florida, and then, everybody started migrating north around the 50s.
So your father, what was his education level? What was his occupation?
He was forced to drop out of school in the 3rd grade because he had to sharecrop. My granddaddy was so focused on his music career that he really didn't have time to work the land. And the truth is my granddaddy was a hustler. He'd rather go steal tires off the white people's car and sell them than sharecrop. My daddy worked, so my dad had the mule and had the hoe, and he tended to about 15 acres by himself at 9 years old. And my father was able to finish school when he went into the military. My father signed up, went into the Marine Corps. He lied when he was 16. My grandma, things weren't going as great as they were going with the land. There weren't enough hands working, and my dad could only do but so much. So daddy went to the military so my grandma could get the check and make up for what wasn't happening with sharecropping. And my father's life changed.
What branch did he serve in? How much time did he serve?
Marine Corps. Hoorah! Semper Fi.
How much time did he serve?
About 3 years. He was a scout sniper sergeant. He was also a cook in the mess hall. And when the colonel came through and tasted the food, he said, this food is too good for soldiers. Who cooked it? And they said, Wright. He said, who made the gravy? And they said, Wright did it. He said, report to my quarters at, what's 3 o'clock, 1500 hour. And he went there, and then they changed his assignment, and that's how my dad got out of the field, and he spent the rest of his time in the service as the private chef for the colonel. But, the worst had already happened by then. My father was a black troop. People look at Tuskegee, and they think that's the only company that happened to. It happened to all the black companies. My father's company, they did psychological warfare testing and training. They had them in an insane asylum for 90 days, locked up, hypnosis, psychedelic drugs, had them doing all kinds of shit in there. My father didn't stop having the night terrors and blacking out until he was about 65. So when Daddy had rough days, it was just rough day. We would come home, the house would be torn to smithereens, and we wouldn't know if we had been robbed or Dad had a bad day, so we would have to sift through everything and see if anything was missing, and if nothing was missing, then we knew we didn't have to call the police. We just had to clean up and have everything done before Dad got home. Yeah.
How did your father meet your mother? What was that?
It was a blind date. My mother was a single mother of a complicated child that had been molested by a family member. My sister was 6, Lachelle. She was 6. She ain't like my dad. And then my grandfather died 9 months before I was born. So my granddaddy had pretty much raised my sister as the man of the house, and she gave my dad a hard time. She gave the whole family a hard time.
So I believe Jaguar said that Lachelle was molested as a little girl. This is what I'm gathering from what you just said.
You know,
When you say hard time,
the bitch is crazy.
are there things you remember as?
I remember everything.
Can you elaborate on one of those times that you felt like this is just hard to deal with?
One?
Just one.
Nigga. Don't make me pick.
There's different levels.
Nah, it's all. She started putting pillows over my face when I was a baby. And she started setting me up to get beat. And she would lie on me, have the neighborhood bullies come after me to fight me, to scare me. I'll never forget the first time she got me set up to get beat up. I was 5 years old in Lawnside, New Jersey. We lived at 230 Haney Avenue. It was this fat bitch with a bad Jerry curl named Rezzy. Therese. And everybody was so scared of her. Rezzy was about 9, I was 5, and Rezzy was big and greasy. That Jerry curl shit was a mess. And I think my sister had told her that I said I could beat her up. And so Rezzy came to my driveway. I was on my big wheel. And she stopped my big wheel while I was riding down the street. You think you can beat me up? I said, what you talking about? Leave me alone. I don't want to fight you. Well, you gonna fight me because your sister said. And I looked, and this bitch is standing at the door, and then she closed the door and locked the door. My sister, this bitch 9 years older than me. And my parents wasn't home. So I stood up, and I said, I don't want to fight you. And then she pushed me. And she pushed me back, and all the kids, ooh, all the kids on the block. And I just remember what my dad said. It don't matter if you win. It don't matter if you lose. But you got to fight regardless. So I balled up my fists, my little teeny, skinny little arms, closed my eyes, and I just started swinging. And next thing I know, I heard the kids, oh! And I opened my eyes, and Rezzy got a bloody nose. And she sit there and started crying. And the neighborhood bully with the Jerry curl juice dripping ran up the street. And we became friends after that. For a short while. We was decent.
So as a reminder, you only have one other sibling?
No.
How many siblings?
I mean, does it really matter? I'm the only child between my 2 parents. The rest of them niggas is half, and I really don't have much to do with them.
How many have you?
Well, there are biological children that my parents had before I was born, and then there were family members that were adopted and raised in the household. Everybody that I liked is dead. Everybody that I don't like is alive. For now. Niggas is getting old. My brother Norman, he's been successful all of our lives. He don't like me because he don't like my mama. My sister Otelia don't like me because I ended up being our father's favorite. And Shelly just don't like me because I exist. And as long as I exist, I remind her how inferior she is as a human being as a whole.
What makes you the favorite? I remember you stated that you were supposed to.
Because I worked the hardest, because I listened, because I was obedient, and I treasured every word that came out of my parents' mouths. I honored my mother and father. I followed the 10 Commandments. Beat into my head. I used to have to recite them. The whole chapter, Exodus 20, the whole chapter, every Shabbos when the sun was coming in. I had to know it by heart, and if I messed up a word, I'd get my ass whipped. I listened.
Were there whoopings in your family?
Oh my God, yeah.
This is the 70s, 80s.
I preferred my dad because daddy was fast and quick justice. Mom liked to drag it out. You know, my mother unsupervised it. It wasn't good parenting. She would make us strip down naked and lay on our face down on the floor. And then she'd get a spray bottle and she'd spray us with water. And then she'd get the extension cord and beat the out of us and laugh when we cried.
That sounds like mental issues. So when Jaguar says her mother is mental, now I can see why.
I'll never forget, I had a Norman Bates moment. You remember the Bates Motel where he came in and he killed the bitch in the shower? Ah! My mama done me like that. I didn't wash the dishes, see. She ain't beat me like a normal person. She waited for me to get in the shower for my skin to get soft. And she came in the bathroom and I seen her lurking and she pulled back the curtain and why? Started beating the out of me in that shower. I guess that's part of the reason why I never had a problem with scars. I've always had them. A body without scars, I don't understand. Yeah, my mom was, she used to do mean shit. Like my sister, if she wouldn't wash the dishes and left and the stink started to get stinky and the rag and then the dirty food and all of that, my mom made my sister eat that shit out the drain. And then made her wash down 4 tablespoons of castor oil behind it. Like my mom, her cruelty was some extra shit. She got off on it. So like my sister, my mom used to love canned peaches. Oh, that was her treat. And my sister would steal my mom peaches. And then she would fill it up with water to try to get the mark up so my mom wouldn't realize that she got the peaches with mommy. She got too much water in it that one day. So my mom got an idea. And she poured out all the peach juice. And then she replaced it with castor oil. A whole bottle of castor oil. And this, my mom, y'all just gonna have to forgive me, this bitch. My mama sitting there waiting for Shelly to go into the kitchen and sneak to get the peaches. I told Shelly, Five, you gotta leave them peaches alone today. Mind your business. I'ma just put some water in it. She ain't gonna know. All right. I told you. See, I've been telling niggas shit my whole life and they don't believe me. So Shelly get in there, she go get the scooping, and then she tastes the castor oil. My mom said, oh no, bitch. Have a bowl. Eat them all. Oh my God, and then Shelly started shitting all over herself. It was terrible. My sister was always trifling. She stole my Jimmy Dean. When they first came out with the microwave biscuit, I worked hard. I did my chores. I worked for the janitorial company starting at the age of 5. I was up at 4:30 in the morning, working with my father at the buildings. We go have breakfast, and then I had to go home, get dressed, turn around, get my bags, make sure my homework was all the way done, go to school. That was my childhood. Go to school, do the school thing, leave, go back to the janitorial service, clean more buildings. We did medical offices. We was a medical cleaning company. Global was the name of the company. So see, I've always lived the LLC life. And then after that, I had to come home, do my homework, have dinner, and then make it to bed and all of that. Only time I really had alone was with the radio at night. And I'd listen to Power 99, and then the Quiet Storm would come on, and I could go to sleep. And then 4:30 in the morning, do it all over again. Mm-hmm.
So who were some of your parents' musical influences, that people that they might have carried?
Oh, my mom loved everything from Motown and everything from Philly International. She a real Philly girl. My mom from down 23rd in Cambridge, she went to Gratz. She graduated from Kensington, but she went to Gratz. She left when the boy had the gun in school, and he was in the locker next to her, so then she transferred to Kensington, which used to be all white, and now it's just all heroin addicts and shit. Yeah.
Your father, did he have any musical, loves?
Oh, my father played the guitar, he played the piano, and he sang better than anybody you ever heard in your life. When you hear me sing in my low register, that's actually how my father sounds.
Did he not look up to anybody, having to do?
Oh, my father loved. My father's two favorites, Nat King Cole and Ray Charles. Georgia on My Mind, my dad's favorite song.
So how would you describe your overall adolescence?
Nobody sang like my dad. When he would sing Larry Graham, 1 in a Million, when somebody died or when there was a wedding, or it was my dad that always sang at the family function. I'll never forget my Aunt Verly say, "Wayne gone now. I guess you gonna have to sing it, Jackie. You the only one that can do it."
Did your parents want you to sing? Were that something?
Hell no, my father didn't want me nowhere near the industry. He hated the industry. He hated what it did to my grandfather and what it in turn did to the family. My father did everything that he could do. He wouldn't even let me go to art school. He wanted me to be a corporate litigator.
At what point did he know you had the talent to sing? At what point did he know?
I didn't. I never did. I still don't. I just am what I am. I started writing when I was 11. I started singing in jazz quartets when I was 12 for extra money in the summertime when I wasn't babysitting. Music saved me. It was my escape. My life was terrible.
So that's what I was going to ask. As far as I do want you to try to categorize what would you say your quote unquote family life was like?
Chaotic. My father was a brilliant man that married a woman in 6 months because she lied to him and told him she was pregnant, and then conveniently had a miscarriage right after their honeymoon. It was chaotic. My sister was a child born out of wedlock and abandoned by her father, who thought my mother was so crazy he didn't even want anything to do with his own seed. She ran into him online a few years back. My mom and my aunt got involved, and my mom started sending him letters talking about how she was glad he was back in my sister's life and how they had so much catching up to do. The deleted his Facebook the next day. That's how bad he ain't want to fuck with my mom. He said, "Dad." That nigga deleted all his social media. Wouldn't talk to my sister no more. I came on to my mom, "You selfish as That's her father. You ain't supposed to be worried about that. We have a child and grandchildren. That nigga don't want nothing to do with you."
What was your mother's education level? What was her career? What did she do?
My mother has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in regular education and one in special education, which goes to prove that anybody can get a college degree.
Wow, Jaguar really doesn't like her mother. So if she doesn't like her mother, why does she fight to keep her mother close to her all the time? Is it for the checks? Drop it in the comment section, folks.
What was her career?
My mother was a school teacher. She teaches in Camden, New Jersey, one of the worst school systems in the state of New Jersey. She teaches in the roughest schools because they paid the most money and they really didn't care who they hired because my mother's a delusional schizophrenic. I don't know who the fuck would trust her with a classroom full of kids. Other than Camden, New Jersey. But thank you for the pension. Like everybody say, I've been living off of it for years. My mom, her career ended at Broadway. She couldn't handle the classrooms anymore, so they kept dropping her down, and they gave her to kindergarten that last year. She lost them, the whole class. They went out for recess, and they went down the street to the corner store. She's supposed to be watching them on the recess. She lost the kids. I'm sitting there talking to her principal. Listen to me, your mother's going to have to. I said, please, my father's dying. Just let her retire. We invested a lot into getting her this far. Please let her retire. Do not make us fight for her pension. And so that's when my mother retired, and then my father died 8 months later. And I've been taking care of my mom ever since.
What was his ailment?
My dad had 22 strokes. He had Parkinson's, bleeding on the brain at the end. He beat the prostate cancer, but the diabetes and the Parkinson's, see. Hardest thing in the world to do is watch my father lose his mind. Because he was one of the most brilliant because I ever met. Only person smarter than my dad is my son.
I wonder which son she's talking about, Giovanni or Sam.
As far as
God bless the dead.
did you have to move a lot as you were young, or did you stay pretty much stationary in one house?
We moved until we got comfortable. My dad was an upwardly mobile Negro. They left Philadelphia, they moved to Jersey, to the suburbs, keep us out the city. But we was in the city every day because the cleaning business was in the city. So I was in Philadelphia every day, no matter what. I literally grew up on both sides of the bridge. Period. I was in the Northeast in the morning, in Logan before school, then in Jersey in private school, then back to Philly. So we was over the bridge at least twice a day, almost every day. So I grew up in both places. I just gravitated towards the hood. I like double dutch. I like sunflower seeds. I like oatmeal pies. I like dollar hoagies. I like boom boxes and the sound of the city. Jersey, it got quiet, too quiet. And everybody was in the suburbs and most of the people in the city anyway. Suburb people so much than city people. See, city people got to deal with danger every day, so they know how to avoid it. Suburb people, there is no danger, so they always looking for it because they bored. They're a lot more dangerous than city kids, with city niggas.
What kind of crimes did you see kind of happening around the neighborhood? And you're like,
just ask me.
So let's just say from age 3 to 7, did you witness?
When I was 3 years old, I saw my first murder. I seen a man get a hole blown through him, right from my face.
Did you process it at that time?
I've witnessed over 150 murders in my life, so I guess I processed it.
How did it affect you, would you say? It's the first one.
learned the difference between life and death, I killed a bee, and I cried for days because I felt like a murderer. And I thought God was going to punish me and send me to hell. When you experience murder and death and as a child, it makes you innately in tune with the gravity of life and death. It was moving, it's no longer moving. And something made that happen. Yeah.
As far as fun, what would you say were some fun things that you had a chance to do growing up?
It wasn't a lot of fun. It wasn't a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, and a lot of studying, and a lot of time alone. You got to realize the closest person to age proximity to me in my household was 9 years. I grew up with grown people. I had a sister that was a grown woman when I was born.
Did you witness any wrong things?
Of course I did.
Did they try to protect you from that or no?
Not really. My childhood was catch up or get left behind.
Do you remember your first crush?
Yeah. Little boy lived in Frankfurt, around the corner from Fifth House. He had a crush on me. He kissed me when I was 7 years old. He was 8. And he was my boyfriend for a week. And then I broke up with him because I was waiting on Bobby Brown. I was going to marry Bobby Brown. Whitney got him. Ain't that a bitch? I'm so glad she did, because I couldn't have handled that nigga.
What would you say was your first real relationship?
That's complicated. Walter Williams III in Williamstown, New Jersey. Around the corner from my Aunt Paulette house. I was 13. He was 23. He worked at the car dealership where my dad bought his Chrysler van, and he slid me his phone number, and we talked. Walt was sweet. He was in my life on and off till I was about 17. After that last time he went to jail for murder. I tried to stick by him on that case as best as I could, but he was going away for life. He did contracts. I didn't believe him when he first told me. And then one night he came to my parents' house. I snuck him in through the back. Let him use the shower downstairs. He was covered in blood. It was a job gone wrong. And he got arrested for it a year later. First-degree murder for contract. He would ride his bike for 15 miles just so he could sleep next to me for an hour and a half. He made me feel so safe. His mama hated me. She thought I was going to get him arrested because I was so young. My 8th grade graduation, I was a valedictorian of my class.
Jaguar really opened up. We got a little insight as to who she is.
I had finished my 8th grade year in 3 months. They didn't elect me class president because I wasn't the most popular. So the only way I was going to be able to give a speech at my 8th grade graduation was if I was valedictorian. So I said, okay, I guess I'm just going to be valedictorian then. And they all laughed at me. And I just started taking my textbooks home every weekend, and I would read them from cover to cover. And I completed all the year's schoolwork before Christmas break. So at that point in time, I was only going to school for attendance, and I would do peer tutoring, and I gave the speech as valedictorian. That day was special. Walt was very proud of me. I was about to turn 14. He was about to turn 24. There was nothing like it. My dad refused to let me ride with my classmates in a limousine to the graduation. They was all going to go out to eat first and then ride in my whole class, because it was only 8 of us that were graduating. It was private school. So, yeah, now see, that brings up other memories. Busch Gardens in my 8th grade trip. That was terrible. My dad beat my ass in front of my whole class because he thought I had ran off with a boy that gave me his phone number. He couldn't find me. I was downstairs in the lobby talking to my mom. I called her collect. And when I came upstairs, he thought I had left with that boy from Busch Gardens. So he pulled me into the room. He fucked me up. And he slammed the door so hard that it popped open so all my classmates saw. That was my 8th grade trip. I worked hard. I raised $2,000 for my class to have that trip. I was a trip coordinator and valedictorian in my 8th grade class. Uncomfortable ride home. Everybody staring at me trying to figure out how I just took that ass whooping like that and I got a shiner and I'm just walking around normal. So anyway, my 8th grade graduation, my father never apologized about that. I waited a whole month for the phone bill to come in so he could see the collect call from Virginia to New Jersey and say, I'm sorry, I f***ed up. And he was like, well, you probably did something else wrong. So see, I've been telling the truth all of my life and people haven't been believing me, even my own family. So my graduation, Walt wanted to kill my dad so many times. And I said, no, my mom won't know what to do without him. Let him be.
Your parents knew of this relationship?
Nah, I've always been good at keeping secrets. They had no idea he was sleeping at our house 4 nights a week. I would sneak him in through the back. I would take the screen off after everybody went to sleep. He would come, park his bike on the side of the car. He never drove a car. He always rode a bike. Park his bike on the side of the house, sneak around, jump over the fence, come through the back window, and then just come into the room. And then he would have to be gone by 4 o'clock because Dad was up by no later than 4:45. So
You had your own room?
yeah, I lived downstairs at the time. They were upstairs.
So parents out there, that's a little lesson. How your children can sneak other people into the house when you're sleeping.
I never told anybody about that.
I'm curious, how would you describe what your teachers would say? What kind of student you were?
Difficult and brilliant. I've always been smarter than my teachers. I've always let them know it. Got suspended a lot because of it. My father always said, don't ever let nobody that's dumber than you think they smarter than you. So anyway, my 8th grade graduation, on the day of my graduation, my mom, she never asked me where I got my money from. I always had money. Walt always gave me money. Walt would give me like 2 stacks a month to get my hair done, go shopping, do whatever I want. So on my 8th grade graduation, because I was valedictorian, all these trucks just showed up at my house. Since I wasn't allowed to celebrate with the rest of my class and I had to ride with my parents and ride back home with my parents, and I couldn't go out to dinner and I couldn't ride in the limo even though I raised the money to get the limo, Walt just sent trucks. First came a truck with flowers. 6 dozen red, white, and purple roses. 6 dozen. Then came the truck, and it was all of this candy and teddy bears and balloons. And then another car came, and I had to sign for the package, and it was a brand new Rolex. A lady's Rolex, my first Rolex. I was floored. I came back from getting my hair done, and I had my layered stacks and my asymmetrical cut, and my boyfriend showered me. My father lost his mind. Beat the shit out of me right before I had to go to my graduation and took everything and gave it to his girlfriend. I got a typewriter as my graduation gift because I was going to need it for boarding school.
Did he send you to boarding school?
Yeah, I had a full scholarship. Graduated valedictorian in my class. I had 10 scholarships. Best boarding schools on the East Coast. My dad picked the school. White, 7-day Adventist and Christian, and I didn't fit in. So I started running away with one of my roommates on the weekends because it was up in North Jersey by the Delaware Water Gap. So we was only 45 minutes outside of Manhattan and a half an hour away from Brick City, from Plainfield. And that's when I started getting into Islam. First, it was 5% Nation of Islam. And then I met Big L in Brick City. And we was creeping. But I started seeing Shia Muhammad, who's Dr. Malachi Z. York's son. I'm trying to remember if he was in the 70s or the 90s. Either he was the 75th son or the 90-something son. But he was very important to his father. And I was promised to him. But that was after. I got pregnant before I got pregnant with my son. I never told my family about it until I was grown. I ran away from home. I gave birth to my daughter at the mosque, and she was dead 13 weeks later, and after she died, I went home. And then I hooked up with L after that, and then I got promised to Shia, and
What age was this as far as
15, 14, 15 is. There was a lot that happened in that year. Because I went to boarding school. I didn't fit in. I had a job, but I was a scholarship kid. I was smarter than everybody. The dean hated me at my dorm, and she was a piece of fucking shit. She was married to a younger guy. Her father was on the board of the school, and all they did was all day and smoke weed and act like we couldn't smell it. And I'm like, you an entitled little white bitch. This nepotism shit is going too far. You're not fit to be the dorm mother for teenage girls. You act like one yourself. She didn't like me so much, so she started doctoring up my file and putting shit in my file that wasn't true about me. I had a friend of mine that worked in her office as her assistant, and she bumped into my file and saw her doctoring up my file saying I was doing all of this shit. She staged all of these events of shit that I didn't even do. I could have probably handled it differently. The next day we had a dorm meeting. I wasn't speaking. She insisted that I speak. I told her, you don't want me to speak because you don't want to hear what I got to say about you. And she said, well, I'll just write this in your file. I was like the rest of the fiction you wrote in my file? How do you know what's in your file? I said, bitch, because I broke into your office and I read it last night. And she said, oh, well, I'm writing you up for that. I was like, you know what? Let me give you something to really write up. So I got up and I went into the bathroom and in the powder room in the lobby by the phone booth. This is at Garden State Academy, 7-day Adventist school. I went into that bathroom and I ripped the towel rack off the wall. And I came back out there in front of everybody. I beat the out of her with that shit. I beat that bitch until she bled out her mouth, nose. She was bleeding out of me out. Waka. They finally got me off her, and then all of us, I'm the devil. She's a demon. She can't be in a Christian. Oh, I do Muslim anyway, bitch. So then I couldn't get into no other school because they thought that they was going to press criminal charges against me. And so I lost my 9th grade year. They stole all my shit. They my clothes. They cut up my clothes. I mean, it was cool. I went home, and then I left home. I went back to New York. I went to Brooklyn.
So I would imagine she was set back a whole year from school.
I was staying at the community at Bushwick and Flatbush. I ran away from home when I got tired. But, yeah, my 9th grade year was a wash, and then we had to figure out what school would take me because of my violent tendencies. And then I got raped by my sister's fiance.
in that situation, and it's touchy, but it's always, not saying two-sided story, but it's always a perception.
I left home because me and my dad was arguing. He asked me, was I still talking to that murderer that buys me all the gifts? I'm so glad he never found that Rolex. I ended up pawning that shit and keeping the money because I couldn't wear it. I only got $7,500 for it. He paid $25,000.
What did he do?
Who? Walt?
Yeah.
He was a contract killer for the Gambino family.
In the situation in which you were violated by technically a family member,
he made 20 stacks a job, and every time he did a job, he gave me $5 grand. During the course of our relationship, Walt Reader must have gave me about $150,000. When you're 9 years older than your sister, you 14, and she 23, and that bitch coming asking you to borrow money. I used to peel money out to my sister. At 13, That's how long I've been getting money. That my 20-something-year-old sister will come. You got like $300? Hold on, let me see. And you let your daughter do that surviving Tasha K shit, you bitch. Because I paid for her too. I paid for her kids and your son, your disrespect. I raised all your kids, bitch, while you sat there and you smoked crack and everything. Yeah.
Let's do it like that.
So anyway, me and my dad got into an argument. You still with that killer? You still with that he could kill you? I wish he killed you. We duked it out. I got him up underneath his ribs. He got me in the jaw. I left. My father didn't beat me after a certain age. We just fist fought. I remember the first time my dad got scared of me. That was interesting. Because I wasn't going to stop fighting him back. I didn't give a fuck how hard he hit me. I was going to hit him back with every fucking thing I had. Fuck that. You going to respect me. So yeah, I went to my sister's house and she was stripping at some piece of shit bar in Frankfurt. Stripping and getting high. Her fiance, Jamie Wallace, was supposed to have been going to Atlanta with his cousins and his uncle and his brother for the weekend. So the apartment was supposed to have been empty except for when my sister was home. I needed some time alone. I could have called my friends. I could have hung out with my friends. I could have called my dude Tweet. Tweet would have came pick me up. We could have burned one. Like, I wanted to be alone. So I went to my sister's place because she was at work. And her boyfriend was supposed to have been in Atlanta for the weekend. I got there. I took the bus to 554. Got off at La Martinique Bowling Alley. The apartments was right across the street, Stratmere. She left the key under the mat. I went to the apartment. All I did was listen to music and smoke a joint and a couple of Lucy's that I bought. Ate a poor man meal, 3 chicken wings, rice and gravy. And I laid down on the couch. She called, check on me, see if I made it in the house okay. I told her I was sleeping on the couch. She was like, no, you can lay down on the bed. Ain't nobody going to be there. You ain't got to sleep. I was like, no, that's you and Jamie bed. I don't need to sleep in your bed. I'll just lay here on the couch. I'll be fine. She said, ain't nobody, you ain't got no company. I was like, no, I just want to be alone. And she said, just lay down on the bed. I'll wake you up when I get home and we'll have breakfast and we can talk about what happened with you and Dad. So I laid on her bed. I didn't get under the covers. I didn't even take my clothes off. I only took my shoes off. I left my socks on, everything. I went to sleep. And when I woke up, Jamie Wallace was on top of me. I was trying to get my bearings. You got to understand, I'm 14, 15 years old. About to turn 15. At that time, I was 104 pounds. I was only 5'3.5". I was little. I was barely wearing a size B bra. I think I was like a B32. I was little. He climbed on top of me, pulled my pants down, and rigged them around my ankles so I couldn't run. I knew you was going to feel like this. I knew you would feel better than your sister. You going to be the shit when you grow up. He's fucking saying this shit while he's raping me. I fought him off. I kicked him in the nuts. I got one of my feet loose. I ran out the crib. half naked, dragging my pants on one leg. Before I got to the door to get to the street, I pulled my pants up and I ran to White Horse Pike, Route 30. Wasn't no bus in sight. So I just ran. I was on the track team. I was real fast when I was young. I must have ran 3.5 miles until I finally caught up with a bus. I got on the bus and took the bus, got off. Taunton and White Horse Pike in Berlin. It's a dark road. About 2 miles to the crib. And all I did was repeat the Lord's Prayer over and over, and I walked all the way home. I got in the house, went in my parents' room, and my mom was on the phone gossiping. I told her I had to talk to her. I didn't quite know how to tell her what had happened to me. Me and my mother never talked about. We had never had the mother-daughter sex talk. And she was improved. How do you explain what just happened? And I said, Mom, he done terrible things to me. A monster. Shelly can't marry him. I got to call my sister. She can't marry him. And my mom said, well, she's pregnant. I said, yeah, he's a rapist. She can't marry him. He's a monster. Well, I don't know if I would tell her if I was you. Well, why not? Well, women don't like hearing bad things about their men. That was the first time I realized how in the head my mother was.
I know it's hard for most of us to understand that there was a rape culture back in the 70s and the 50s. And of course, it's still being swept under the rug, but not as much as it was back then.
I said, well, I need to go to the hospital. I need to call the police. Oh, no, you can't do that. If you do that, your father will just, no, he'll kill Jamie. And Shelly has to get married. She's pregnant out of wedlock again. She has to get married. I said, he's a monster. I'm like, okay, I can't get through to you. Call my sister. My sister got home from the club. I made my mom take me in the middle of the night back to the apartment. Shelly got into the car. I told her everything that happened exactly as it happened. Her I could have that conversation with very easily because that was the person that I talked to about life shit. What a mistake. Because that bitch ain't got no good advice for nobody. So after I tell her everything and say, you cannot marry him. You cannot marry him. That mother is evil. And she looked at me and said, well, I'm just going to have to talk to him and see what he got to say about it. So I'm telling you what he done to me. Yeah, well, we just going to have to see what he got to say. And that's why I was like, all right, I'm going home. Good luck with that. Her and my mom got together. They worked the story. I was jealous that she was getting married because I didn't have no boyfriend. I'm one of the greatest rappers ever lived in the world. And they ain't know it. But I'm jealous of a crackhead rapist. I'm Lamont Coleman on the side. Promised to Dr. York's son in the front. And I'm jealous of a crackhead rapist that rapes little girls? That's what they told my father. Told my father if I came to him talking about this shit that I made it all up because I was jealous and not to believe me. That's what my mother and my sister did to me after I was raped. I contracted the clap and crabs. I wasn't allowed to go to the hospital. I wasn't allowed to talk to the police. My godbrother, Keon, took me to Planned Parenthood down to CDC, South Philly, on Broad Street, so I could be treated for VD and pregnancy, get my HIV test. I went through all that by myself, and my family ain't helped me with shit. And 3 months later, I had to sing at that wedding. I had to sing the Lord's Prayer and watch my father walk my sister down the aisle to the pussy that had just raped me. And this bitch, Jamie, piece of shit, fucking South Philly Tasker Project, piece of shit, mother, sitting there smiling with a shit grin. He wasn't smiling because he was happy to get married. He was smiling because he knew in that moment that he'd gotten away with murder and he wasn't never going to go to jail for what he done to me. Fuck you, Jamie. I hope you catch something they can't cure. Or maybe somebody rape you the way you raped me. Maybe I ought to pay somebody to do it. Maybe I'll feel better. I've been gang raped worse than you, bitch. And you're the only rape that haunts me. I guess because you're still breathing, because the rest of them pussies ain't. Don't nobody get to touch me for free. And you ain't dead yet. You owe me! You owe me flesh, bitch! Sister, I told her until she publicly acknowledged what they done to me, she can't call herself my sister ever again. Fuck you and your motherfucking kids that you had with that rapist, bitch. I don't give no fuck if our mom was raped and all our aunts was raped and if incest was fucking normal. It wasn't ever normal to me. I can't.
This is all before you're 18, so I don't want to end with anything before.
I hadn't even got pregnant with Giovanni yet.
How old were you when that happened?
When I was 15. After the rape, after the wedding, I left home again. And I didn't come back until I was 5 months pregnant. See, my sister and her husband, after they got married, moved back home with my parents because he's about to go to prison for that credit card scam that they did. And my sister, she turned state's evidence, and he took a deal. So they pretty much stayed at my parents' house up until right before he went away. They got a little railroad apartment down Hamilton. And then he went to jail. But I didn't come home until I was pregnant and showing because I figured that would be the only way he wouldn't touch me. So I got pregnant to protect myself.
Giovanni's father?
Yeah, Donnie.
Was that a relationship?
No, he was my choreographer for my girl group, Philly's Blunt, Black Ladies United in Truth. That was my first group. We was going to be TLC, but it was 6 of us, and we could all dance, we could all rap, and I was the lead vocalist. He goes, Donnie is what he calls himself, but his name is Donald Boykins. Donnie, they filming me talking about my life story. And we're getting to the section where I got pregnant with Giovanni. So if there's anything you don't want me to talk about, you need to hit me back and let me know. I know we haven't talked since 2018. I know, I'm fucking terrible. But I don't want to paint you in a bad light. So just let me know what you want me to say. All right, bye.
There's been a lot of, with the music where, you created, but there was also a lot of destruction that was happening around you, or I'm assuming. Let's say, as you're getting to your teenage years, did you have any close, either friends, family members that you lost?
My cousins and my aunts. When I ran away, I would usually go live with them unless I went to New York. And when I was in New York, I was either down 117th and 2nd with my dude who I used to hustle Coke and chocolate tie with. His mom told everybody I was her daughter, so nobody questioned why I was in the neighborhood. Or I stay out Brooklyn, out Flatbush. But if I was in the city, I would either be with my cousin Mark, or I'd be at my Aunt Frida's down Southwest Philly, or I'd be at my Aunt Belinda's up Logan, 4800 block of Marshall Street, 5th and Loudon, UNLV. Or I was down the projects with my Aunt Dot down Richard Allen.
Do you have any close people that passed away or didn't make it early on in your life?
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a long list. By the time I was 19, I had been to over 150 funerals of just my friends, and I sang at 2/3 of those funerals.
Now I understand why she have mental issues, rage, and anger.
The worst was when they murdered Sutai.
Who was he?
Nigga from the neighborhood. He was a hustler. Neighborhood dude out Logan. Sutai was so cool. Shit. See, Sutai liked to get money, and I like to get money. So I always had, mad respect for him. He got caught up in some shit. They cut him down, Huntington Park. Broad daylight in front of everybody. They shot him 50 times. And then there was my ex-dude, Anthony, who lived up Cayuga, 15th and Cayuga on the other side of Broad Street. He hustled on my side, Logan side, UNLV side, and there was that day. Me and Ant had just really started seeing each other. He was a hustler. He called me short. Everybody, I was back when everybody was saying, yo, shorty, yo, shorty. He always had to be special. He got rid of the E. Just short, yo, short. I was short. And he came over every day after school, after I got home from school, because I was going to William Penn. He would meet me at Broad and Alany, or meet me at Broad and Loud, and stop and take me to get something to eat. And we go to my aunt's house, or we go to his mom's house where he lived and kick it, smoke, whatever. Me and his mom was cool.
What happened to him?
I don't know if Anthony's still alive. I hope he is. I hope he got better. Annie was at my crib all day. I played hooky. Danny was doing a deal with them niggas over on what street was that? 11th and Loudon, basically. No, Wissahickon. They was fucking with some Puerto Rican niggas from the Badlands. They was doing some business with them. Danny was always real cocky. He was on some "I'ma take your girl" shit all the time. Fucked around with the wrong Puerto Rican niggas. Fucked around with the wrong chick. Little did they know them niggas had been following them all day. Annie at my house, we laid up eating beef and broccoli, watching old episodes of Martin and shit. And I'll never forget when Danny came pick him up. And it was Danny driving, and then the other two young bulls that they hustled with was in the back seat. And kissed me, jumped into the car. I had to go to Jersey because I was under court-ordered mandatory psychiatric treatment because I had a break, and I beat this girl up real bad. I beat her in her face with a brick. I snapped. So I had to go to Jersey every Thursday to meet with my psychiatrist. And
So this mental illness with Jaguar has been going on for a while. And it didn't sound to me like if she had any type of counseling for all the trauma she suffered when she was a child.
he was like, call me as soon as you get to Jersey. I might come down there tonight. And I'm like, cool. And so I got on the train. I took the train. I got off at Camden. My mom picked me up, took me to my therapist's office. I went back to my family house in Berlin to sleep. And then I was going to take the train to go to school first thing in the morning. Back to Philly. I called Anthony. I called his mom's house. His sister picked up the phone. And she was like, Short, is that you? I'm like, yeah, where Anthony at? I finished my homework or whatever. I wanted to see if he was still coming to Jersey tonight because my boy got a party and yada, yada, yada. And she was like, it ain't going nowhere. I said, what you mean he ain't going nowhere? She was like, he in the hospital. I'm like, what do you mean he in the hospital? Where he at? She was like, he down Temple. He down Temple in the ICU. I'm like, what do you mean he in the ICU? So that's when his sister told me that 6 blocks away after leaving my aunt's house at 4803 Marshall Street, the Puerto Rican niggas followed Danny and them down to the block. They pulled up alongside of them, ran up Desert Eagle pump guns. The 2 niggas in the back seat, they blew both of their heads off. The one dude, they had the windows up because it was still wintertime. So they put the pump guns on the windows. They shot through the window. It spun the one bullet. The one charge took Danny's whole knee. So his leg ended up having to be amputated. But he was able to drive to Temple with the left leg. They tried to blow Anthony's head off, but he had put his hand up. So when they shot, it instantly blew the middle finger and the pointer finger off. And it twisted the blast enough. So instead of going into his head and his head exploding, it just took off like this piece of his head and his brain was exposed. And it happened 6 blocks away after he kissed me goodbye. Told me he might come to Jersey. So I got the bus schedule. I knew the head of the ICU unit because it was my boo Tweet. It was his mom. Roger Shade mom, Miss Betty Shade. She was the head of the neuro intensive care unit. So I was able to get in, even though I was technically not family, to go see him. My cousin Donald, God rest his soul, he died during the pandemic, 2020. Donald came with me, and when we walked into the room, Aunt was, he had the shit down his throat, man. And they had stapled what they could staple together to cover the brain because the skull was gone there. And his hand was bandaged up because the 2 fingers was missing, but his thumb was real black, so it had already started dying. And I went into the hospital and I grabbed his hand and I said, Andy, it's me, it's Short. And then he kind of snapped awake and he started grabbing. And then the machines was going off and Miss Betty had to rush us out. And my cousin was just crying. He was like, yo, Andy, niggas came to our crib. And he survived. He was in the hospital. The other 2 was dead on arrival because both of their heads got blown out. They had to amputate Danny's leg. And they had to put a plate. In Danny leg, and Anthony had to get the plate But they didn't put it in right away because the blood clots kept forming on his brain, so they had to just staple it. They had to go on. So yeah, I was in the hospital with him every day. Temple Hospital is at Broad and Allegheny, which is a major stop on the Orange Line, and I went to school at William Penn, which is at Broad and Jaguar, which was a major stop, so I could catch the express train, get on at Gerard, and then the next stop was, Allegheny. And so I was there every day. I go to school, leave school, go to McDonald's, get him a quarter-pounder meal, 2 apple pies, and a chocolate shake. And I was sneaking into the hospital because he hated hospital food. And the McDonald's was right there at the corner of Broad and Gerard. It was perfect. So, and I would come and I would do my homework and sit with him. Then I found out other bitches was sitting with him. And then I came in one day, and then Miss Betty was like, have you been coming up here having sex with him? And I'm like, I ain't having sex with him in no hospital. He's got half a brain. Like, he got to recover. She said, well, child, and who gave him the clap? And I'm like, he got the clap. This nigga had booty bitches from the neighborhood coming down there during the day while I was in school and then get rid of them out of the hospital. So he getting pussy. He fucking caught the clap. You got half brain, but your dick's just... Anyway, we broke up after he got home. He finally came home. He wasn't right. He wasn't right. And one day we was laying in his bed and we was smoking an L. And I was high as shit. And he started rubbing me with his hand. But see, that thumb died. So all of this was gone. And all he had was the ring finger and the pinky finger. And the rest of the hand was gone. So he's sitting there rubbing me with the 2 fingers, and he trying to caress me. And I've been an asshole my whole life. I'm just real honest. I said, nigga, you feel like, get that shit off me. He's like, a bitch. I'm like, you can cripple. We was just a real North Philly relationship. And then we went to the McDonald's one day, and he had a seizure in the McDonald's, and I got him home. He had messed all over himself. He had dropped his food, and, all of that and he was like, I'm short. I ain't no good, and your life just getting started. Don't come around here no more. And I talk him out. I nursed you all the way through the hospital. You cheated on me. You got the clap. You scared me half to death. You got piece of brain. You got piece of hand. I've been here all this shit, and you breaking up with me? And he looked at me. He said, Short, I'm out. I'm out the game. All I'm going to do is hold you back. Don't come back here no more. I got dressed and I left, and I never saw Anthony again. I never drove past his mother's house. Like, even when I was driving around the city, I avoided his block so I would never run into him. I don't know if Andy's still alive. But if you are, I'm sorry. I'm still mad at you for getting the clap in the hospital.
So I have to ask, did you have any fear in you back then as far as the drug and the violence that was going on around in your neighborhood in Jersey?
I understood that violence. It had rules. It had structure. My home life didn't have no rules. Didn't have no structure. I walked over by a stranger and over by my family. Because at least if it's a stranger, I won't feel bad about shooting you. Because you're a stranger, I might think twice if you're my family. It was just easier that way.
Did you see yourself ever being involved in a life of crime? I know the
I'm a criminal. I've learned how to be a law-abiding citizen. Make you no mistake. I am a criminal. I'm just good at being a criminal. I can't complain about any of the time I've spent in jail in my adult life. The truth is, if I had got caught doing any of the shit that I really did, I'd still be in jail now. So I can't be mad at a couple months in the county and I ain't got no penitentiary number when I should be doing 25 to life.
Do the police know you by name?
The feds know me by name. Cops. Ain't number of security guards.
So, on the creation part, the music.
Saved my life.
Who were you? You said there was a band that was put together, or a group of girls?
Yeah, my group, Philly's Blunt.
What was that?
Me and my cousins and my girlfriends from my block. Black Ladies Unite. Philly's Blunt. This was when blunts was very big. We was going to be bigger than TLC because there was more of us. And I could sing. There's 6 girls in the group. So we had double what TLC had. So the routines, the choreography, dope. But then everybody got boyfriends and started getting pregnant.
What were the ages?
That was, everybody in the group was between the age of 13 to 15. And we had a manager, and I got us booked for our first talent show. And then that got me a gig singing backgrounds for a girl from Southwest Philly. I can't remember her name now. She lived down 47th in Baltimore. I was at 47th and Woodland, so I would have to go over her house and do the choreography. That's where I met my baby daddy. He was doing choreography for her, too. And we did Teen Summit. I was one of her backup dancers for Teen Summit. Yeah. And then she got over by Haq Islam, and nobody ever heard from her again. Haq Islam over so he could manage Maya. And Drew Hill. And then we being love bitches who he got all of them pregnant. He got the fucking group pregnant. How the fuck you, the manager, and you get every bitch in the group pregnant? We must be in. We must be in love. You remember that song? Yup. Haq Islam fucked all them bitches, got them all pregnant.
How old was he?
I don't know. He old as he was old as dirt then. Haq was in his 40s back then. That was in the early 90s, so Haq should be like damn near 70. Dirty bitch. I'm so glad Maya ain't gave you no pussy. You was trying to too hot. Your dirty pedophile ass. But I do know Cisco. Haq. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. What you think I ain't know? Maya told everybody you Cisco. It's Sigma Cell. Everybody tells Mike Tarsia everything. Because everybody gets high with Mike Tarsia. First time I seen Grace Joe's ball pussy naked was with Mike Tarsia. Because she only sing in the booth naked. That's the only way Grace Jones can record. She got to be ass naked in the booth. But yeah. So anyway, what was we talking about?
Philly Blunt.
Philly's Blunt. Yeah, that came and went. Everybody got pregnant. And then I became a solo artist. But I wasn't a singer. I was a rapper. Yeah, that's where the name Jaguar come from. I was in a after Philly's Blunt, I got into a group from Chester, Pennsylvania called the Zoo Click. And so everybody had animal name. But they all had like cool names and shit. Wolverine and Grizz and all. I'm like, I want an X-Man name. But they said, you want to be Jack? Jimmy looked at me. I was dating Jimmy at the time. I did a lot of dating when I was young. So I was dating Jimmy at the time. Jimmy Grizz from Fat Cat, not from Fat Cat Click, from the Zoo Click. Everybody was a clique back then. And Jimmy was like, Jag, if you gonna be in the group, Your name is Jaguar. If your name ain't Jaguar, you can't be in the group. I was like, I want to be in the group. I'll be this Jaguar bullshit. I felt like I was getting cheated. And being the geek that I am, I started studying the animal. And I started realizing how much I had in common with the animal. And then I started loving this animal. And I became that animal. I became Jaguar. I was the illest female MC on the streets of Philadelphia. I ghost wrote for Eve. I ghost wrote for Foxy Brown, and she don't even know it. Easiest $1,000 I ever made. You anger, you ungrateful bitch. Frank Bank came to me and asked me to ghost write for Eve before he died, and I did. I ghost wrote for a lot of people. You're welcome, Candy. And I'm talking about Candy Burrs from Escape. Those early records that I wrote, those demos that I wrote down at Key Sweat Studio that your manager took and gave to y'all and had y'all front off like he actually wrote them. Stole my records clean out from underneath me. I never got paid, Escape. But when the records made it a hit on the radio, it told me one thing. If they can steal your shit and it can make it on the radio, you can do your shit and it can make it on the radio. So y'all welcome for them ASCAP awards and shit that you got for them early records. Y'all bitches know you didn't write. But I ain't hating. I'm happy for you. Bravo. There's still a...
There's a lot, trust me.
No, because there's the whole... In between that time after I had Giovanni and getting signed, there were the 4 years that I was a dominatrix and a pimp.
That is the interview with Jaguar and Real Life Productions. And she did talk about being a pimp and a dominatrix in a different video. But my goodness, what a, I guess some people would say horrific. Some people would say interesting. Some people would say colorful. But whatever adjective you want to use, what an experience for a young girl of 13. That's what I can't wrap my head around. You're 13 years old and you're going out with a man who is 23, in his 20s. Now, when you're that young, that 10-year age difference makes a difference. But as you get older, like in your 40s and your 30s, if a guy is 10 years older, it's not a big deal, right? But when you're 13, that 10-year age gap is a big difference. So I'm wondering, guys, have you all ever experienced going out with an older man or older woman, and what was the age difference? And because I know a personal friend of mine have a sister, when she was in her 20s, I think she was like 22, and the guy was already like 56, and she loved him to death, and they had a very happy marriage. So guys, drop your comments. I am imagining when I was 13, I was just a little baby. There's no way I would go out with anybody that old, because that was considered to be old. But, you know, Jaguar being Jaguar, she was very experimental, I guess, and very daring. YouTubers, drop your comments. That was Jaguar's first interview with Real Life Production. There's a second part. I'm over and out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.